Great.
Hi, welcome to Pink Pixels at the Gamehers. For those of you who don't know, the Gamehers is a community platform for women and femme-identifying gamers. We are a place to find people to play games with, to find jobs in gaming, to connect, to meet educators, students, parents, basically kind of the go-to place for women in gaming. So really excited to be here today on season 3 of Pink Pixels. We are using the first couple of episodes of this season of Pink Pixels to honor our 2025 Gamers Awards winners. And last week we had some of the esports excellence winners. Next week we have some of the impact through education winners. Today I'm so thrilled to be here with Roxanne Sabo, and the category this week is community champions. So Roxanne, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been really exciting. I was super excited to be a part of this year's awards and super excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here. I think community champions is such a special category because at the Gamers we are all about community. We're nothing if we're not community, and I think the way that as somebody who has been community has been important in my personal life forever, in my professional life, in this industry. I think it's so important, and I'd love to start out by just talking about what community means to you as a community champion, winner of the Gamers Awards.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, that's like a great and very broad question.
Yeah.
I love it. Um, I think there's so much, especially, in the context of games and everything, and how much time people kind of spend online and in that space. I would say community is always just the most important thing, like kind of about it is just like having and building like a collective of people who, can relate and connect and bond over something they share very often, in online spaces and things like the game hers is over video games or over, just kind of whatever that shared interest is. I think, especially too, with the past few years, how prominent things like Twitch and Discord and all these online spaces have really become. Uh, there's just so many different spaces people can connect in, so many things they can connect over. And like ultimately, though, it's always just about like building that shared space and connecting with other people through over, whatever that thing is that you all care about.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think as humans, we are, in my opinion, in my experience, we like to find like-minded people, and
Yeah.
we're great to learn and connect. We of course always need in all the spaces we need allies and people who can lift us up and amplify us and all of that kind of stuff. But finding people with whether it's like-minded hobbies or people going
Yeah.
experiences. So I think that's been something that's been really important. I'd love to hear maybe, and I think that probably the people watching and who will watch in the future and listen, love to hear how you got into this industry and what was your path to sort of this moment.
Yeah, no, I've had a little bit of a weird one. For like many people, I think that end up in games. Uh, it's something I was always super interested in, super passionate about. When I was in college, I remember, I was getting a degree. I wasn't really sure what I was doing, like a lot of students are, but I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm just 18 years old. And I went to like a student panel that was like interns in the games industry or something like that. And I was like, it had never occurred to me at that point that like, oh yeah, people have to make video games. There are careers. Um, Obviously at that time, things like Discord and some of these online spaces didn't exist. There were forums, of course, that I had participated in for games,
Yep.
just like a variety. I was really big into Nintendo. But like I had never, thought too deeply about like what that meant. And I remember going to this panel and I was just like, oh my God, like I went with my roommate, my college roommate, who I'm still friends with to this day, who we had found each other and bonded on Facebook over video games. And we're like, let's just be roommates. Like, I kind of know you, I guess, like from our chatting online. And it had never like occurred to me that like, oh, you can make a career out of video games. And immediately I was like, oh my goodness, like that's what I want to do. That's crazy. So I ended up like that summer just applying for every internship, emailing every company in a place I could possibly live that summer that I could find, including, the city I went to college in, cities I had cousins in that I was like, they have a house. They'd probably let me stay there, my hometown, whatever. Just like reaching out. And I was lucky enough to land an internship, just like a communications internship, which at that point I didn't even really know what that was or what that meant, at a company called Daybreak Games, which was also kind of previously known as Sony Online. And it happened to be in the area I went to school in. So I got to stay, which was super easy. Didn't have to crash with those cousins. And yeah, I kind of started there, and I was really lucky. I worked with some really fantastic people who like taught me so much. Like I had no, my kind of parents and family background comes from a lot of, not a lot of like office type jobs, a lot more labor and things. So I got to learn all this stuff, and yeah, one of the things that very quickly became really important to me, was working with players and interfacing with players and people who all over the place, all over the world were, really invested in these games I was working on that I loved because they were a part of my job. And I was like, this is so cool. So again, I was lucky enough to be at that company as an intern at the same time, kind of things were uh, on an uptrend there, and they wanted me to stay, and they were like, do you want to help with PR? Do you want to help with community? Kind of what do you want to do? Social media. And I was like, I want to keep being a part of these communities. I want to learn kind of what community management is. But like that, those are the spaces I want to be in. And that was kind of the start of my career. And I've been in community management, communications kind of ever since, just both in the industry. And I feel like almost now in my day to day, I exist in a bunch of online spaces, and just like it's such a big part of my life that I enjoy. So
I love that. I mean, one of the parts of your story that I think is so compelling is the fact that you didn't know, or you hadn't kind of thought through the fact that, like, of course there's an industry behind video games.
yeah.
People have to make them. But then once you found that out, you just started applying. I think in my experience talking with a lot of young people who or people in other careers who are trying to switch into this industry, sometimes people can't think about, like, where would I start? Like how do I actually do it? And I think that your path is actually a great example of some, just try, meet people, ask around, apply.
Yeah.
It's a really
Like,
great kind of little nugget for everyone to keep in mind. Sometimes you never know where a path is going to lead.
absolutely. That's like one thing too. I work with a lot of students and things now that I always tell people, like when they're like, I don't know where to start. I'm like, I want to be a game designer. Okay, like go download Twine. Like you can make a game
Yeah.
right now, And obviously it's not that simple, but like it's just so important, like getting a start. And like one of the things that's really great about the games industry is that it's full of people who are super passionate, spaces like this just
Yeah.
pop up because community and passion and all of those things. But it also means, like, oh, if you're super passionate too, like, share that, share that, start sharing that, get out there and show it. And, you'll meet people that appreciate that and love that. And that's kind of, a great
Yeah.
way to start on that path.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. So it's interesting that you're a community champion. We talked about how you got into the business a little bit, and I know that I'm passionate about community. I know you are too. I'd love to ask you some questions and hear your thoughts on, okay, we talked about community. What about specifically community management? Like, if you're a gamer, you kind of hear that word a lot. You hear that term. It's a job description, it's a job title. But what actually is it? Like, what skills do you need? What would you look for if you were trying to find a good community manager?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. One of the things, and I've definitely experienced it throughout my career, is like how varied a skill set can be. Um, like there are a lot of like soft skills that are really great. Um, I'm gonna call out one of my coworkers and then tell her about it later, who's like a great example. Um, just kind of as a point of comparison against me. Um, so for me, right, I was like, oh, I learned communication skills. I learned PR. I learned that through my internship. One of my coworkers I work with right now, who's a phenomenal CM, when she got hired into my current company, her background was like she had worked, I believe, support, like customer kind of support for a job for about a year. And
Yeah.
then, but she was the moderator of r slash French and like worked in the Discord moderators program. And it was like, oh my goodness, like that's crazy. So there's, so many spaces to get involved in and stuff like that. But, ultimately it comes down to, you know, how do you communicate with people? How do you choose to communicate with people? How do you connect with people? That moderation experience, like, wasn't directing games, but like, oh my goodness, you're reacting with all of these French speaker, whatever, Reddit community every single day, learning moderation, learning how to interact. A lot of things that are very important is not just like engaging with others, that is very important in how you do it, but like, how do you handle toxicity? How do you respond to that? How do you do moderation? There's also a lot of, other types of skills that I value super highly. Creativity, especially when I talk about engaging with players or whoever. It's not just about talking to them, but it's also about like, oh, what kind of fun things do you want to do together? What fun things do you want to build together in this community? So creativity, being able to communicate clearly, kind of being able to have a good another thing, sorry, this is kind of separate. Another thing that I would say would be really highly valued is just like being able to have a very good pulse on the people you are interacting with. One thing that I find really interesting, because when you're in a community as a community manager, you're not just a part of that community, but you have a little bit of a different role. You have to be able to kind of be that shepherd of information between a publisher or a dev team and a community or players or whoever you might be working with. So in being able to do that, though, it's also like being able to discern kind of the pulse of the community, what feedback you're going through. One of my other favorite little anecdotes, too, that I think is a really good example of like, what does a community manager need to be able to do is like, there was an example of players are asking for mounts. They're screaming about mounts. They really want mounts in this MMO. And being able to see that and look at that and be like, oh, what are they complaining about? Why do they want mounts? They don't want mounts. They want fast travel. Like that is what they're trying to solve. So being able to like parse together and learn and kind of just like get a pulse on like feedback and learn how to parse through that is all super important. Um,
I love
Again, very broad skill set. I think today a lot of community managers also do social media manager or social media management or other comms or moderation and those things. But those are all things that can definitely like be learned as an individual on platforms. I think a lot of people interact with every day.
I actually love that example that you gave, and it reminds me of I was listening to a talk recently, and they were basically talking about how there's sort of like reactive community management and also moderation, and then sort of like proactive, and
Mhm.
trying to there. That is an example of hearing the community and then like doing the kind of the research and then proactively realizing what the actual
Yeah.
desire is and figuring out what the next best steps are.
Yeah,
Do-
it's definitely interesting. I just like I think that example is the funniest thing 'cause it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, what are you saying and what are we hearing?
yeah.
Got a gist.
Hello, Kitty. Yeah, that's a really great one. And I think in communities that I've been a part of, I know I always feel good and welcome and kind of included when feedback is actually kind of taken, responded to. And, sometimes I know at the Gamehers, we want to have our community be a place that the community who's there has a voice.
Mhm.
And so I love that sort of skill set in community management, just kind of understanding the community and then bringing it back to the internal team.
Definitely.
Do you think that it's important to, you alluded to the fact that if you're a community manager, you're kind of in the community, but you have a little bit of a different role. Would you say,
Mhm.
like, as a community manager, it's pretty important to have been in the community or have a passion for the community or, um, you know,
Just gonna have a guest.
perfect, perfect.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think to a certain degree, right? I think it can be very learned.
Yeah.
I would say, like, I currently like work on a couple products, but like the main product I've been doing community management on for the last 4 years uh, is a game called Lost Ark, which I had not played prior to starting at Amazon, primarily because it was only available in Korea and we were publishing it in the West for the first time. There was an existing community of people that played not only in Korea, but were excited for it, were aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
had found ways to play it. But like with that, I wasn't involved. We were kind of building from a little bit in an existing space, a little bit from the ground up. But what was more important too than just being like, oh, this is something I'm already passionate about, which a little bit true. I've worked a lot on MMOs and played a lot, but was taking the time to kind of become a part of it, right? I spent a lot of time, obviously in those spaces like Discord, like Reddit, to understand the players, to understand their frustrations or the things they preferred or don't prefer. Um, so I think even if you're, you know, coming into a space like as a CM or as someone that's trying to do community management, it's great if there are things you can already relate to or whatever. But really, like the key thing would be spending time in those spaces to learn and understand and be able to relate to those other people that you're surrounded by, to just kind of be able to understand their mindset. And then that's a big part of, like I was saying, parsing out, what are you asking for and what do you really want?
Yeah.
Because without that, you come in, okay, everybody's asking for mounts, you maybe don't know what the real complaint is. I am wrestling this cat. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. He's so
Absolutely no
excited.
problem.
I fed him and now he's even more excited. It's
It's so great. It's like such a fun addition to our chat. So he's welcome anytime.
no
Um,
problem.
I think you alluded before briefly to the fact that you work with students sometimes, or you have.
Mhm.
I'd love to hear more about that. We're actually about to launch an education program at the Gamehers, and I can share a little bit about that as
Oh
well.
yeah, definitely.
But what is your experience in that area?
Yeah, I've definitely done I've taken on quite a few speaking engagements at just like universities around my area. I love that. I will always take an opportunity to do that. I think it's really important to me. Like I said, I kind of started my job as a student and an intern, and that was the start of my path. And I like know what it's like very clearly to be, in college and not really sure what you want to do, but be super passionate about games and be so excited about trying to get into that industry. So yeah, I've done a number of speaking engagements just at schools, at things
Cool.
like that. I've done a couple of different mentorship programs and just wrapped up one with was hosted out of Berkeley, I believe, where I got to mentor a student for almost a year. That was like really wonderful just to see her grow, and build a portfolio and make all these connections and learn. So like there are definitely a lot of great programs like that, either that you can just like attend or sign up to try to get mentored. And I think there are a lot of people in the industry like me that are just like so excited to like work with people that are also excited about the industry and trying to get in. So it's
I
super
love
fulfilling.
that. Yeah, I mean that's my experience too. I think there are a lot of people in the industry, like us who would love to talk to students and mentor and help
Mhm.
them. And there are a number of universities that are really focused on that. What's your what would be your advice to anybody who's, like joining us today, or if they're a student and they don't know where to find those kind of resources, like if their university doesn't seem to bring in amazing guest speakers like you?
Yeah, definitely. I think again, really interestingly enough, uh, in the way we're talking about building a community and these online spaces, like you can definitely take advantage of that. If your university isn't kind of doing something like that. So, for example, the mentorship program I was just mentoring in, I think I mentioned it was out of Berkeley. My mentee was actually in Texas. So they opened up, she was not attending Berkeley. So they opened up like to the broader community, or like just broader like students. So there are opportunities too. You can definitely find. You gotta hunt around for them a little bit, but connect with other students. At other colleges or other places or wherever you can find them in your online communities, in your online spaces, because there are opportunities too that can come through university that will connect you with other ones, or maybe if there's another school nearby, to like for example, I went to UC San Diego. San Diego State is nearby. We had state students come over for some of our on campus things, and it was always good to connect because then you're connecting both cross campus and you can take some of these other opportunities. And like, as long as these, a lot of these programs are like pretty open, and nobody's ever going to turn you away as long as they are, just because you're coming from somewhere else. You'll just connect with even more people, and it's kind of exciting.
I love that. And I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's interesting. There are tons of schools who are doing a lot of things, for sure. What my experience has been, is similar to what you were alluding to, is that some schools may have something, really great here and very developed, whether it's game development degree or a gaming club or an esports team or
Yeah.
yours. But it's still, even though our industry is very big, it still seems somehow confusing to the outside. And
Yeah.
so I think that you gave great advice. Just dig into all your online places, try to find, people. I think, I know one thing that we're doing, and we'll be talking about it more over the next couple of weeks. We've found that there's so many universities doing things, so many students who are wanting to learn, maybe wanting to get into the industry. A lot of brands who are sort of touching the space. A lot of parents who are confused. And
I had that. I know that
yeah,
one.
well, we have to talk about that next. But what we found is that it's sort of like that ecosystem connection that might actually be missing. So we'll be sharing more at the gamehers over the next couple of weeks about how we're going to try to connect those dots a little bit more easily. So if anybody's watching anything right now and not knowing where to start, definitely stay tuned. And keep up with what we're doing. It'll be in our platform. But I think that young people, college students, that whole kind of demographic and category is so important. And I always love to encourage certainly anyone to reach out to me directly and the gamehers. And it's great to have you here, Roxanne, too, just to hear your kind of experience. And I'm so excited that that you're an awards winner. We really want to continue to give awards winners opportunities to sort of like share what they have going on. So I know you mentioned that you worked at Amazon, and have you been at Amazon for 4 years or just on this specific game?
Yes, I have been at Amazon for 4 years now. I previously worked at two other studios as well. The one I got my start in, I think I may have mentioned earlier, was Daybreak Games, which was very MMO based as well. And then I worked briefly at the Behemoth, which is a indie studio of like about 20 people. So I've had quite a variety of experiences, going from massive MMOs and places like Amazon to 20 people studios. But it's been really cool to get to kind of explore all of those different spaces and just ways, even just games companies in the industry can be different.
Yeah. I guess if you joined Amazon 4 years ago, was it like right after the pandemic kind of, or
It
during?
was like, I think it was mid 2021. So we were all still remote when I started.
Yeah.
It's all kind of a blur when you look
I
back
know,
at that to be like,
right? It's
all
like
the pandemic, it's just that
back in the
whole chunk
dark
of time. But
days.
yeah, so I did start fully remote, which was a very strange way to start a new job, but it worked out. I'm still here.
Yeah. And do you work remotely sometimes still or?
Yeah, we're mostly in the office now. Days like today where I get to do things like this. At home, and my cat is my coworker for the day.
Yeah.
Um, there's actually two of them here. I'm sure the other one will now want to make an appearance. But yeah, so some opportunities for that. A lot of opportunities for travel, which have been really phenomenal. But yeah, we're mostly in office now, which is nice because the people I kind of started with and met online are now some of my friends, and I get to see them every day. So that's great.
Yeah, that is really awesome. I love, of course, there are benefits to working from home and benefits to
Mhm.
being in the office, but
Yeah.
again, we do all like human connection
Yeah.
as human beings, I think. So going to work, that's pretty cool. Did you say you travel some?
I do, yeah. So I'm really lucky right now. The primary products I work on are actually, so we're publishing them at Amazon Games, and they're actually made by Korean development teams that we are partnered with,
Oh,
which means I've spent a ton of time in Korea these past few years, which is super cool. Um, Gotten to travel for a number of events and things that I'm sure people are familiar with, like PAX and TwitchCon. TwitchCon's actually here now in my city, so not as much travel anymore.
yeah.
But things like PAX, TwitchCon, those sorts of events, which are always really fun to just connect with. And yeah, we have teams elsewhere too. Like we have teams in Europe that work for Amazon. So I've gotten to go to London to kind of meet up with some of those folks in the past. And it's really just been super cool. I love travel, obviously. I think a lot of people do. But also just to spend, like I said earlier, I've spent a lot of time in Korea these past few years, and just to go to a very different place like that and spend time seeing like how they work and working with them and learning things from, different developers and studios kind of all over the world that we work with. So that's been super cool.
That's incredible. I have not been to Korea, but I definitely hope I get to go there.
I love it.
I feel
I
like this
I
industry
love
might
being there.
open opportunities,
Oh
but I
yeah.
mean, what are some of your favorite experiences from being there? What are some of the biggest differences?
Yeah, I like I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I was supposed to be there a couple months ago and I got sick and I could not go, so I'm still
Oh
kind of bummed.
no.
But I just like really love it. I'm trying to think of like a good like first of all, it's just beautiful. Food is phenomenal. Very easy to get around. I've actually spent some time just like myself. There like, on back ends of business trips, just kind of exploring the country, which is really lovely. A lot of places I really love. And yeah, working with those teams in office is always really nice. It feels very different. I've been there before when we've been doing like content launches. So instead of, being with everyone in these different time zones, like on a Zoom call or a Teams call or whatever, actually like being in the office and we like, there was a day I remember we had meetings all day and I was like, it was one of my first or second times there. And I was like, I really want to try like Korean fried chicken, like real,
Yeah, like the
we
real
have had it
time.
in the States.
Yeah.
So we ordered just like a ton of food. And then we were in there like working on one of our launches all together, just like pigging out the whole time, which was really fun. And again, just like getting to meet in person with some of the teams you work with online all the time is always just like a very different experience. It's very nice to always just like connect. Again, like we talked about earlier, being in office, connect with people.
Yeah.
In person can be very different. Again, I think like online spaces are super valuable. I'm hardcore vouching for people to do that online. And when we talk about all these things and getting into the industry,
I think, yeah,
I spend a lot of time there
both,
too.
right?
But both, yeah, definitely both. It's a different experience every time, and it's really nice to be able to do both.
Yeah. So that makes me kind of think about when you think about community management, or I should say, when I think about it, a lot of the first things I think about are actually in the digital space, like monitoring what's going on and making sure you are kind of aware of what people might be complaining about, what they might like, all of those kinds of things. So when you are going to launches or going to events, like what's I'm asking these questions because I think it's something that community management, we all kind of know what it is. But when you think about like, oh, if I wanted to do that, what are the actual things that happen? What's your role when you're going to live in-person events? Is it just to kind of meet those community members in person?
Yeah, very often. I think it kind of depends. Sometimes we'll do certain projects. In the past, like I've worked in community manager roles, but I've worked on esports titles before. So I've done things like that and stuff. We've done, you know, events and initiatives with creators, which is a little bit different. Very often, though, if I'm working in a company where we just kind of like have a booth and are interacting with fans, it's just to be there and talk to people and, like I said, connect, like kind of what we were just talking about, because it's very different. Sometimes seeing people in online spaces and in person. It is fun. I've had, especially when I was at the Behemoth and some of these other companies and back at Daybreak Games, I've had people come up to me and be like, I know who you are, which is always a weird experience, but like, I know who you are, this is my username. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I see you in our spaces online, whatever. And I get to put a face to the name, and it's very, very cool. So yeah, oftentimes it's just about like creating some of those like really cool moments for connections, fostering those connections. They're like excitement within the community and having a space where you can be like, yeah, we spend so much time online and we can connect in person and be excited about this thing that, we all care about and I get to work on and you get to play or whatever the case might be. So that's always been super, super fun. Yeah,
That's
I've like
really
had
cool.
so many instances like that where I'm like, it's so funny. Like, I will never not be surprised by someone recognizing me because for me, I'm just like, I'm a person with a corporate job, but like, the amount of times that's happened and then they tell me their username and I'm like, but I recognize you too, is like a weird thing. But it's very fun. It's very cool that, the age we live in allows us to like experience things like that and connect with people from all over the US or all over the world that we maybe would not have otherwise.
I agree with that. I mean, I feel very lucky and fortunate to live in this day and age where we can meet each other, across the country, like you said. But there's nothing like then sort of connecting the dots and being in person.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you know? Do you have events coming up you're going to be attending?
I will probably be. Can't talk. I will probably be at TwitchCon later this year. That's kind of next on the docket. I have a pretty busy summer just with some personal travel and just wedding season for all of my friends right now. So I'm a little bit slammed until then, but definitely looking forward to TwitchCon this year. And like I said earlier, I'm based in San Diego. It's based in San Diego most of the time, and I'm super lucky that it's in my backyard. So no matter what's kind of going on, I always like to make it out there and just try to connect with some people. So I'm looking forward to that. I believe it's in October.
Yeah,
Don't quote me.
I love TwitchCon.
It usually is.
Yeah, I think it's in October this year.
Okay. That's embarrassing.
I can look it up in a minute, but oh, what was I just going to ask you? Oh, I know. So internally, you're obviously externally, you're working with like the community and everybody who's playing and figuring out what they want. What about like, how does it actually work? If you're sensing like, consistent feedback on one thing, are there, and obviously I know you said like you've gone from bigger companies to smaller companies to bigger, what's the internal process like? Is it like, do you report that feedback and then is there a loop, and how does that kind of work?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely feedback loops. The one thing, no matter like who it goes to, like I said, I've worked with like dev partners in different countries as a publisher. I've worked directly on indie teams where my boss sat 6 feet from me in the office, but every time when you're getting feedback at every company I've ever been at, first of all, we do regular like feedback, like every single week. We're in there every day, collecting, even if there's nothing that's on fire, or a huge topic, or it's kind of quiet. Like, that's great feedback too. I think one of the things people kind of like don't think about or realize, especially in games, is like oftentimes if things are quiet and there's not a lot of feedback, people are happy. People are in there playing. People are doing the thing they're all there to do. So constantly collecting that, I've always done weekly reporting at every company I've ever worked at. I've implemented that if it did not exist, because I think it's just important to be able to track kind of the pulse, like week over week. When did this start? How dramatic has this changed? And then, of course, if there are, super prominent things, whether it's an issue or something people are thrilled about too, kind of breaking off for even more details for that is super important. And then, most often that gets recorded. I always keep like a running tab that's, again, accessible for all that week over week stuff. So kind of anyone who needs to access it can go back and like look and track that. But gets delivered to the devs, the producers, the publishing team, whoever the right person is. If there's feedback on, I don't know, something that's happening with the customer support team, go talk to those people. So one thing that's fun, kind of funny in community management too, you spend a lot of time in these communities, but then you also spend a lot of time just talking to people internally, delivering that feedback, talking with them the same way, we bring up again the mounts versus the fast travel thing. Sometimes you'll end up talking to the people internally and you'll have a better understanding of, I don't have a cute example for this, but hey, players are complaining about this thing. And then it's like, oh, maybe it's not functional and we didn't know, or oh, maybe this part of the UI isn't clear and they can actually do that thing they want to do, or whatever. So you're constantly just like going back and forth and learning and tracking. And it can definitely be a challenging role to be in, but it's very rewarding and very fulfilling, because you get to kind of be that intermediary and make sure everyone feels heard and understood and help everyone kind of come to solutions.
Yeah, I know that you mentioned earlier, like there are soft skills that are hard to, or maybe not as well known. And it seems like you're sitting in such a unique spot, with sort of like tentacles in all the different places, communicating between them. Are you able to tell, like when you look at other communities, are there signs that like that's like well-managed community and they're thriving because they do this? Or like, have you been a part of communities on sort of the other end of the spectrum where it's like, is there even a community manager here?
Yeah, I've definitely existed in online spaces myself where there's like no community managers, and sometimes those are really interesting because they kind of like self-manage pretty well. Especially, I spend a lot of time on Reddit, and like Reddit moderators can very often be just like step in and fulfill those roles in really interesting ways depending on the community. But yeah, I think like any space, and it's always going to depend on the product, and there's a lot of things that can feed into, but like any space where people feel like comfortable giving constructive feedback is like I like really like seeing that. I think that's very good. A lot of people are like, oh well, everybody's just complaining or whatever, isn't that bad? And it's like, if people are spending time giving feedback, it's because they know they're being listened to. Even if they're shouting down, like, you never listen, you never, whatever. Like, I think we've all seen sometimes communities can get super spicy or whatever, not always super positive. But even if they're still taking the time to like leave feedback and have these discussions, it's like, okay, they know someone is listening, things have changed, whatever. If you can see, communications in the past from devs or CMs or whoever, is that connective tissue that they're talking to. Again, even if it's like not always positive, but they're still willing to engage in those spaces and try to reach those people. It's like, oh, there are people there doing these things and working, and there's always that like possibility. So that's like a good thing to do. Another thing that I always appreciate, this is like very, very silly, but like the willingness like to just like goof off and have great memes, especially like with the team or like with a community manager, is always like great, because to me, like, that means like that community manager, that dev team, whoever that might be, has like built up their social, currency. Like they've earned some level of trust with the players where they can have fun and be goofy, and like they have that connection. And like it seems so silly. It's like, oh, if they're having fun, yeah, great. But like if they're your players or whoever your customers are willing to joke with you about things and you can joke back, and like it's a very human connection and a human thing, and it's just like, a great indicator.
Yeah, I heard you say the word trust, and I think that's what it is, right? Like
Mhm.
we always like to get feedback too at the gamers, and I mean we've got we focus a lot on the community management in our own community, and I think that it's true. I mean, even if you were getting feedback that's sort of like suggestions or a reaction to something that wasn't totally positive, at least we feel, or I feel happy that someone felt comfortable enough to say, you know what, maybe
Yeah.
next time do this, and
Yeah.
hopefully fostering an environment where that kind of feedback is, with respect and all of that kind of stuff. But if it is,
Mhm.
what more could you ask for, to have a community who drives you in the right direction for what
Yeah,
that community
absolutely.
actually wants?
Definitely.
One thing I forgot to get back to, but we like buzzed over it before, is parents.
Oh, yeah.
What would you
Oh my
say to
goodness.
parents? So I'm a mom. I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old daughter. I also have an
Mhm.
8-year-old son. And so I interact with a lot of my peers are parents of teenagers and younger. And I think there's a big range right now of from full kind of support to gaming and the careers it can open and the positive things it can bring
Oh
to
yeah.
kids' lives in terms of even mental health support and all of those things, to like the other end of the spectrum where it's like I don't ever want them on screens, period. Um,
Yeah.
what would you say? What would be your guidance to parents like that, or your, if you're at a cocktail party and get in a conversation with one, how do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like, oh my gosh, I have to like think about this because this isn't something I've thought about recently, and even in the past like couple of years, it's like very different now. Like I would
Yeah,
say, for 3, 4 years ago, if I had been asked this, there's like, what's a Twitch? Like I don't, like,
yeah,
whatever. And now Twitch is a little bit more of a household name, and people are like, oh, I kind of know what that is. Um,
agreed.
so first of all, I think just like the broad awareness of gaming in online spaces has increased significantly in a way that is very helpful. First, I
Definitely.
would say, no, my job is not to play video games all day. I wish
Yeah.
it was. No, but yeah, just like, I mean, so many levels here, but like, for example, if there was, a kid who was like, oh, my kid is like very interested in video games and spends a lot of time there. Normally, the first thing like I get is like, oh, you have a job doing that. How is that? What's it like? Like, there's a lot of excitement around it. Now,
Yeah.
again, before it would be like, what are you talking about? Your job's to play video games all day.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like, oh, you can build a career out of that. That's great. Is like what I get a lot more from parents and family members and things. Um, yeah, so definitely like it would almost be like the same path, like just building awareness. Like there are schools to do this stuff and learn this stuff, but even beyond that, it's not hyper specific. Like, oh, your kid's really into video games and really into art. Get them into some art classes, or get them into,
Totally.
if they're writing, narrative, coding classes, all that things, just to like kind of educate. Like one thing that I talked about it myself. I'd never thought about. What a career in the games industry might look like until I was kind of there. But like it's so broad. You have game dev, which would be, coding or art or all those things, but like also just games publishing. Like I do a communications job functionally. Like so for kids that are spending so much time like in these spaces and that's what they really care about. I think just like for parents, like having them be aware of the variety of options. You could work a PR
Yeah.
job in games. You could work like almost anything, like CRM, email, marketing. Like
A hundred
that's something they're
percent.
aware of. But like you can do that in games, and it's such like a broad industry. Just like, and I do think people are really becoming more aware of that. But yeah, it has been really funny just to see
It's
that
been
kind of
interesting.
shift in the
Yeah.
past few years.
You're so right that the shift around, at least we can skip over the like what's Twitch, and I didn't know, there was such thing as a games industry. That's I do feel that because my time in this industry has been about 5 or 6 years. And gosh, there was a big just I used to say the video game industry needs like a PR makeover, just like a PR push. Like, here's what
Yeah.
it is, here's how big it is. And like any industry, if you think about sports or the music industry or the movie industry or anything, like it's massive. And what you mentioned, like CRM,
Oh
um,
yeah.
PR, which are such great examples. I mean, there are also, as of course but like esports and games specific lawyers,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh yeah. That's
and
crazy. Like I know a couple of those, and like,
yeah,
yeah, lawyer
no,
for
I mean
video
it's
games. Like,
it's a whole industry. So I think that's a really good way a way to think about it. And it's we're at a unique point in time. I believe, as I mentioned, I'm a parent, so I'm thinking
mhm.
and living in real life, like what the word like gaming even means is changing a bit, and like
Yeah, definitely.
intersection of games and education is massive. And if I look at my 8-year-old in Minecraft and all the stuff that he's building in there, I mean, it's phenomenal. And sometimes the other thing that I sometimes say to parents is like, do you know, even before the career thing, if they're kind of concerned about like games, period, it's like,
Mhm.
have you played with them, or like, have you seen what they're
Yeah.
doing? It's actually pretty fascinating
Yeah.
to see the primary way I play games is with my kids.
Mhm.
Often watching them, sometimes playing with them. But it's, if you're not a gamer, or not a, big gamer already, it's not like too hard to sit down and learn. I mean, if you have waited until they're like deep into, a game and they know all about it and the headset and all of that stuff, and they're in high school, it might be a bit harder. But when they're younger, it's been a fun experience so far
Yeah.
for me. So
I mean, what a cool way. I have a coworker who has, I think she just turned 6, and she's getting more excited and showing her taste about what games she likes. But it's like, what a cool way to connect with your kids, right? As they're exploring, especially super young kids. Obviously, they're not going to be playing specific types of games, but like, they're learning things about the world from their parents and experiencing these things for the first time. And like, one of the things, even as an adult, like a grown woman, that I love about games is like the new experiences. Like, I get to
of
go
course.
be it, and that's the whole thing. For me, like, I'm big on story games, so like, yeah, I think it's the coolest thing for with parents that will sit down and do that with their kids, and like, hey, here's a space where we can go through a new experience like together, and like you said, almost like learn it. At some point your kid's going to start schooling you, but like learn
Yeah,
it at the same
together.
time, and like watch them. There's like just so much to. I actually majored in cognitive science in college. I don't even major in anything I do now, but there's so much to be said for just like, the way people interact with, literally like kids with the buttons and the things they can do, and like all the options
Yeah.
to like learn. Like, the funniest thing, like, you bring up Minecraft, it's like, some people are building different games in Minecraft, and some
Yeah.
kids are building houses, and some are just like, wow, my child is committing a lot of horrors, and it's very
Yeah.
surprising.
Yeah.
But it's like so interesting to like have that as a space that kids can like explore and like learn in, and especially
Yeah.
as a parent with them. I just think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, it's been pretty fascinating. I mean, listen, you mentioned that even in the last 4 to 5 years, things have changed in terms of understanding. And I have to assume it's going to keep changing at that rate with all of the, just there's always new development and new ideas.
Mhm.
And I think that this is not my quote, but I've heard a few times that as parents and educators and just people older than younger people, we need to meet, or it might be a good idea to try to meet them where they are. And
Mhm.
one place they most certainly are is in games.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and even just sort of like the way that young kids can like move from online virtual relationships to in person, then back to online. It's like it's
Mhm.
so fluid.
Yeah.
By the way, you said, what did you say you majored in? Cognitive studies?
I did cognitive science, yeah,
Science.
which
Because I feel like that is
super
a
relevant.
great background for community management.
Probably a little relevant. I remember my first job when I got hired as like a specific community manager. This is kind of crazy, but like someone had found my LinkedIn and was like, "Sorry, he's being crazy."
Oh,
Um, somebody had found my LinkedIn and like didn't. So cognitive science is like very broad. I did do psychology. I did do a lot of neuroscience. I did a lot of AI learning, which looked very
cool.
different when I was in college. It's nothing like it is now.
Yeah.
Very different back then. But all sorts of things, linguistics. But somebody had found my LinkedIn and saw that I majored in cognitive science, and they were like, they hired a psychologist as a community manager to manipulate us. And I was like, I'm 19 years old. Like,
Oh my God.
what are we doing? Like, this is crazy. That is not, no, like,
Wow.
that's not what's
That's so
happening.
interesting because
It's
where
just
my
very
mind
funny.
went
But
is they hired someone with a psychology degree who understands people and can,
yeah, like,
communicate
there is
well.
definitely, yeah, some of that. I think it's helped a lot with communications and understanding different ways how you can communicate with people. I think I mentioned this the other day when we were just chatting, but like,
Yeah.
my college capstone project was I did write I gotta find it. It's somewhere on my computer, I'm sure. It was a 20-page paper on building online relationships in EverQuest specifically. So that was something I did spend a lot of time studying, and I ended up working on that game later, which was really funny. But
Love that.
so I did definitely had a background and like awareness in that, but was not quite a psychologist that was there to tell people how to feel about the video. I'm not really sure like how they thought I would accomplish that,
I
but
mean,
it was pretty
people
funny.
people make all kinds of comments. It's so funny just because my reaction to hearing your major was the exact opposite. Like, wow, you're saying it's hard to put specific skills for what would make a good community manager. It seems like that would be a great
Yeah.
measure.
I definitely like didn't start in that place for it. I ended up minoring in writing after I kind of
Oh,
figured
cool.
out what I like what communications was, and that was cool to me. Had I
Yeah.
known, I could have just majored in communications maybe, but I didn't know what that was at the time. But like, yeah, I mean, it is an interesting background. One of the reasons I chose that major is because it was very broad and it encompassed so many things, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I think it was a good background to have, but I certainly took a lot of neuroscience classes that like aren't totally relevant to my career, but I love to
Yeah,
learn, so it's fine.
yeah. I mean, I love to learn too. I went to college a long time ago, but my major was math. And I majored in
Mhm.
it just because I liked it and didn't know what I wanted to do. And I minored in
There it
vocal
goes.
performance because I like to sing. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like I can see certain things that have been threads throughout my life that relate back to both of those. But I think it's hard to, some people do, and some people don't know exactly what they want to major in if you're going to a school where you can kind of be
Yeah.
broad.
Yeah.
Um,
But it'll work out. Totally.
yeah.
You'll end up where you need to be.
That's very cool. So do you have, you work in the games industry? Do you still have time to play games?
A little bit, not as much as I would like. I've been pretty busy this year, but that is self-inflicted. But I do. I'm like a huge Stardew Valley nerd. Like that game, I think it just turned 10, and I was appalled to realize how long I've been playing that game.
Yeah.
Um,
Stardew Valley community in the gamehers.
It's
It's
just so
a lot.
good. It's
Yeah.
a great game. Yeah, I'm very personally invested in story games a lot. It's an older one, but just started playing Detroit Become Human not that long ago, which is that game is quite old now, but it really holds up. It's very interesting. Some of the things and themes that are kind of explored there with like, oh, what is the difference between an android and a human? It's like very fascinating to play through right now with the lens of AI and everything.
Oh, that is
Um,
very cool.
yeah, but
Uh,
yeah, just all sorts of games, whatever I can get my hands on when I have free time. I'm very big into indie games as well, just because I think
love
those are
that.
so interesting. It's great to see. I'm very big on like you know, a small team made this or a couple people made this, and have like uh the ability to be very creative. So I always like to check those out and see what people are thinking of.
I agree. We had some great awards winners for game devs, and can't wait to feature them on Pink Pixels in a few weeks. It is always
It'd be
so
very
wonderful
fun.
to see that sort of journey kind of come to fruition. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I play games with my kids sometimes, and
Mhm.
love to watch them play. They're all really primarily into like Minecraft is the main thing, and so we get
Yeah.
together, which is fun. But at the gamehers, we have I will mention, since we're talking about playing games, we're having a game night this Friday. We were voting on the game to play in our community, and I'm not sure if it was decided yet, but for anyone watching, if you want to play with the gamers this Friday night, for sure, come and check it out. And Roxanne, it was such a joy to chat with you. I'm happy
Yeah.
to get to spend time with you and get to know you. And in terms of talking about virtual and in-person relationships, I'm hoping that we get to meet you. I get to some of the events as well. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to TwitchCon this year, but I'm definitely going to try and hopefully get to see you there. But just
Yeah,
thank
definitely.
you for your time. And where's the best place if people wanted to connect with you, if you're open to that?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. I am pretty much on all social media as Roxley, which is spelled really weird, and I'm actually in the Twitch chat, so I'll just say hi. Um, I it is a weird username, as many of us are, but it's ROXXLYY because, you
awesome.
know, there's a million users on the internet
Yeah.
and a lot of names are taken. But yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter. I stream on Twitch occasionally, just when I do get to play games because it's super fun to connect with the community there. Uh, Instagram as well. And yeah, I am very active online, unshockingly.
Yeah, no, I mean, me too. I think it's a great way to meet people and connect and learn and just kind of experience the world that we're living in right now. So
Yeah, definitely.
congratulations on winning the
Thank
award.
you.
You are so deserving. And I'm just really, it's been really fun chatting with you. So thank you and look forward to next time.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, like I really appreciate the opportunity. I think a lot of the things the gamers are is doing is like very great. It's been great to just like see the community that you've all built and get to
I
be a little bit of
appreciate
a part
that.
of that. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Always happy to chat. And yeah,
Thank
I think
you.
I love sharing things with, you know, people
Yeah.
that might be interested in the industry and things. So happy to
Well,
be here.
you had a lot of good nuggets today. So thanks. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, you as
Bye.
well. Thanks, everyone.